Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the intro. Can you hear me okay? Michelle?
Yep, I can.
Oh, very good. Very good. So hi, everyone, and good to see you, Michelle. Looking forward to this session today, and thanks, everyone, for joining. Dave already provided a little bit about us, but we'll get a little bit more detail. First, for me, I'm Mark Hills, and I lead one of our Kroger Precision Marketing KPM sales teams. For folks that don't know, KPM is the retail media arm for Kroger, and our team, we work with CPGs to connect their brands to the most relevant audiences to support their brand objectives and strategies. And the way we do that is by leveraging Kroger's first-party purchase behavior data that captures 1 in 2 households in the country and 96% of sales in store and online. So really happy to be here. And Michelle, I'll kick it over to you for a quick intro, and then we'll jump into it.
Hi, thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the mentioning of my unicycle riding. There won't be any video, though. I don't have any. Anyway, my name's Michelle Morali, and I lead our digital commerce, Omni shopper marketing, and sales transformation team for Campbell Soup, our meals and beverages division in particular.
Awesome. So, Michelle, let's jump into it. So just to get to know you a little bit better, you've led a highly successful career to date, particularly with particular experience in the CPG space. What was the journey you've taken to get to where you are today?
Sure. Well, growing up, besides riding a unicycle, I had this strange desire to run a business. And at that time, it was, whether it was like a bagel shop or a pretzel shop, I always wanted to run a business. And it wasn't until I went to business school where I realized that brand management marketing track could help me sort of tap into that passion. So after business school, I started down that path, that brand management path, by working as an intern on Cream Savers at Kraft Foods. I don't know if you remember Cream Savers, but I ate a lot of Cream Savers for about 2 years, and I loved them.
I loved them.
They're delicious. So I started with Kraft Foods on Cream Savers, and for 14 years, I spent time in various marketing roles across several large CPG companies like Kraft and Unilever and H-E-B, the grocery chain. And I did everything from innovation, activation, and brand building on some fascinating brands like Snuggle, All Laundry Detergent, Pepperidge Farm, and ultimately here at Campbell Soup. But sort of halfway through that journey, or 14 years into that journey, I realized I was missing a big piece of the equation. I'd gotten pretty close to learning what it takes to win the hearts of a consumer, but really felt like I needed to figure out, if I wanted to be a comprehensive leader, what it took to win with your retail partners. And so 5 years ago, I made the jump over to sales, where I had the opportunity to lead, sales strategy, category management, revenue management, and gained invaluable insights into what it takes to translate brand strategies into winning retailer strategies and help drive growth for our collective businesses, which takes me to this summer. So I did that for about 4 years. And then this summer, I was given the chance to lead our digital commerce and Omni shopper marketing team. And I really feel fortunate because my journey and my diverse background gives me the chance to sit at the intersection of like sales and marketing in this role and help our team develop strategies and capabilities to truly be at the forefront of growth for the organization.
That's awesome. I love that. Can you tell us just a little bit more about your role and your team?
Sure. So my title is pretty long. It should be self-explanatory, but needless to say, it's a mouthful. We are responsible for 3 main pillars. The first pillar is digital commerce, which is setting the strategic vision and the strategic roadmap to accelerate our e-commerce business, everything from content development to e-commerce analytics, and really to pioneer the education and the adoption of e-commerce within the organization. The second pillar is Omni shopper marketing, which is a group of people who work closely with our brand partners, our integrated marketing partners, and our retailers and retail teams to develop fully integrated shopper marketing programs. And then the third pillar is a small group of individuals focused on sales transformation, which is all about automating our customer-centric tools and processes.
Love that. So let's get into just the Omni shopper piece of it and media planning. Consumer behaviors have really been in flux, as you know, over the past 2 years. People are shopping differently, thinking about brands differently. What kind of shifts in consumer shopping behaviors have you seen in the past year?
It's been pretty fascinating, hasn't it? I mean, the COVID pandemic, the crisis has accelerated, I think, what would have probably happened anyway, just over a longer period of time. But when I think about it, the biggest thing that jumps out at me is that this whole idea of a shopper journey, like it doesn't exist anymore. There is no journey. I equate it to more of like a sprint because the time between, inspiration and purchase is almost immediate. It can be immediate. And there's really no starting point. So what used to start as an inspirational moment is now a purchase moment. And what used to start as a shopping moment, people could stop and spend, 15 minutes being inspired and looking up research and recipes. So that's one of the biggest shifts that, I've noticed. And, I guess the second shift is just online shopping in general, particularly for grocery shopping. So what started again as a necessity because either stores, people were afraid to go shopping, is now really here to stay, online shopping, because it meets that ultimate fundamental unmet need of convenience and saving time. So if anyone's like me and realize that I did not even know that I didn't enjoy grocery shopping until I hadn't done it, until I had someone grocery shop for me. Now I never want to go grocery shopping again because I had someone grocery shop for me. And so I think that adoption and that behavior is kind of here to stay.
Yeah, that's really good. And we're definitely seeing shifts, in our world and also just multiple modalities, right?
Yes.
Well, so some of those shifts, talking about some of that in shopping behavior, particularly the omnichannel shopper, as you're thinking about it, how has that impacted your approach to media and planning?
Well, it's definitely evolved, because, always evolving to meet the consumer where they are at the time. And so right now that is that omni shopping behavior. And so we know that most people shop both in store and online. They do both. It's not disparate. And they also, even if they're shopping in store, they're being influenced digitally and online. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our programs have become digital programs, even our retailer programs. And the second, thing I would say is that because, you could be on Pinterest and then all of a sudden being inspired to inspiration to conversion and then vice versa, I think that it's now more critical than ever. It's always been critical to create a seamless shopping experience. So whether someone is physically walking down an aisle or shopping with their hands on a computer keyboard, what you serve them has to look and feel familiar and consistent to get the most value out of it.
100%. And we've seen some of that, right? With just some of our conversations, looking at the kind of the multi-modality in-store and online shopper and just the value of those, of those shoppers.
Exactly.
So the role of retail media, let's talk about that a little bit. So tell us about the role of retail media at Campbell's and what kind of new insights or capabilities has retail data been able to unlock for you and for your brands?
Sure. Well, retailer media, I have to say, I love the term. It can be quite misleading at best and maybe even polarizing for some, but it's definitely a hot topic at Campbell's. It's a top of mind for all our retailers. But I would say our approach, or at least our philosophy, is that retailer media is simply a unique opportunity to reach consumers where they are today, and a unique opportunity to meet your big business objectives potentially more effectively than maybe we could have in the past. So that's kind of our philosophy on it. Our approach is it's extremely cross-functional because, partnering with, KPM, for instance, a large player, you can have multiple objectives that you leverage retailer media. There could be national brand objectives, potentially go after a new consumer target with an innovation, for instance. You can have a very specific e-commerce objective on, Kroger.com, or you can have a retailer specific objective around a key drive window, for instance. And because it can meet those various needs, you have to bring the right people in the room. So our approach is to bring in, we have our integrated marketing team, we have our e-commerce team, we have our customer teams, we have our shopper agencies, and we have our media agencies all in the room, making sure we have a holistic approach to that planning process.
Yeah, it has been so interesting, hasn't it? Even just over the past, few years, just all the everything changing so much, just budgets, even like where those budgets sit, who's doing what. There's more people in the room, and it's just it's happening everywhere. It's
exactly
really everywhere.
Budgets are always the fun part, but we'll leave that out of this one.
No doubt. Yeah. No question about it. So let's talk a little bit about just media measurement and performance of it. So what does media accountability mean for you?
That's funny. It's not a word it's not something I've used often. We haven't used often in the building, but I guess it would mean taking ownership for your actions, the results of your actions. And in this case, taking ownership for the results of your media activity. So driving performance ultimately.
Yeah. That is one of the beauties of just really having with so many players out there now with first party purchase data. It does allow you to just really truly understand, what's working, and what's not, and refine and go as you go. So how are you driving media and e-com performance today? And what kind of success metrics are you prioritizing over others?
Sure. So this is also a very big topic of conversation. And I think it may seem obvious, but the very first thing that we've been trying to do as a holistic team is to create clear objectives. So it might seem basic, but what I found is because the lines have blurred and there's, several different people involved, those objectives aren't always clear. So if you're running a search campaign, and you're looking at a ROAS, what really are you trying to measure at the end of the day? And so being very clear on, maybe you have a digital shelf, objective that you're going for. And so making sure your eye is always on that prize. And I think the second thing is bringing those traditional media metrics closer to the heart of the business metrics. So I don't know many leaders going around judging investments in the building based on a ROAS. They judge it based on an ROI. So it's that conversation of ROAS to ROI. It's the conversation of attributed sales to incremental sales, no different than you would a promotion in the physical store. What base are you subsidizing versus what's truly incremental? And things like, share of voice to, share of digital shelf or just e-commerce share. And so judging that media performance against those end business objectives and getting closer to that is how we're trying to drive better performance.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It really just helps tie to just specific objectives, right? And that does seem so basic to talk about, but truly, once you identify that and align to it, you can build plans, right, to support that objective and then measure against it. So that's really good. How do you see it evolving in the future?
I think we'll continue to get more visibility and transparency of the data itself. So I think that's one thing. I also believe we'll have, build out teams of people who are sort of, I would call it, more data scientists potentially on the team to analyze the data. And as we build up a history, we'll be able to model things more. So again, no different than we do in other aspects of our business. How do we look at our history, look at our performance, model it so that we can predict better for the future?
Yeah, no question about that. We are absolutely seeing that, just more machine learning, and understanding what's, it just will take us to a new place. So that is good. How do you see media advertising investments evolving as e-commerce trends continue to grow? And what will the future media planning across teams look like, do you think?
Well, the first part of your question, media investments, where do I see them flowing? As e-commerce grows, particularly in our types, like my categories, they're center store categories, they're grocery staples. We're not really a direct to consumer focused organization. So for categories like ours, I see that media investment flowing closer to the point of purchase and closer to the point of inspiration, which in our categories, again, is the retailer. So I actually see it moving in the direction it is today. Towards things like retailer media, retailer search, digital display. As for the future of media planning, well, that's one that keeps me up at night. When I first joined in this role, again, it was in the summer, my mind was blown at just the sheer volume of transactions, the level of customization and personalization, every retailer and their various algorithms, every retailer and their different content requirements, like the sheer volume and ability to influence is so overwhelming that I don't think you can have people. You can't have enough people or hands on keyboards to manage it all. You have to leverage, to your point, machine learning and automation. You have to. So that's where I see it going in the future, as well as e-commerce in particular becomes a bigger piece of the pie. So if it's 25, 30% of your business, you need to push some of the control for that planning closer to the end business owner. So I don't see it any differently than, what happens with trade today, where the field sales team is managing their trade budget against particular business objectives at that retailer. I could see for some companies in the future, some of that control, some of that planning, media planning, getting out to the customer teams closer to the heart of the business. That might be a long time away, but I could see it happening.
Yep. Yeah, very much so. So just thinking about the future of e-commerce, what would you say it takes to win e-commerce?
Well, that's $1 million question, but e-commerce is, when I think about it in the future, it's not going to be this thing. Like, we keep talking about it like a separate thing. And it's essentially everything's going to be shoppable always, anywhere. So that to me means more fragmentation, more complexity, more blurring of lines, and it's going to happen quickly. And so because of that, I feel like what it takes to win is an extremely agile organization, which is why you might need teams of people who can work sort of in that agile way. You also need to have a willingness to live in that gray with imperfect information and still make decisions, and then invest in the skills and capabilities that it takes to win in this space, because they are different. The skills, the levers you pull are a little bit different. And so you have to invest in that and have that buy-in from the top to do that.
I love the living in the gray. It is so true. It is so true. We talk about that all the time, just within my team. You have to be comfortable with that you have to be comfortable with that, because It's changing every day.
Or you don't have to be, but then you'll lose. You'll wait too long. If you're waiting for things to be clear, you'll just be waiting too long, and others will fill the need around you. So
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So just a closing question, and we'll take a look at any questions that may have come in, or just if anyone wants to pop those in. What is one piece of advice you'd offer to a brand just getting started in omnichannel marketing and thinking about working with retailer data?
I guess I would say, some people may feel, I don't know, like threatened or skeptical, but I encourage you to look at this as a unique opportunity. That's what I was sort of saying about retailer media earlier, but it truly is a unique opportunity to do some things you might not have been able to do before, which brings me to my second point, which is around just having a test and learn mindset. I mean, you can get things up and running pretty quickly, pretty inexpensively in the digital space. And why not just test some things and leverage the learnings from those pilots and from those tests to inspire and advocate throughout the organization to eventually get to bigger scale?
I am 100% a fan of that. And I think you're absolutely right. There is so much opportunity to test and learn quickly, and ultimately to we've talked a little bit previously about annual planning, just starting to think about like, how do we take all the learnings that we do have and start building out longer range plans that we can refine as we go, so
Right.
I 100% agree. Let me see if I need to find let me see if there are any questions that have come in.
I can see one.
Here's one. Yep, here's one that came in. It says, you mentioned automation earlier. What part of your marketing/media plans do you see looking to automate, and why?
Well, I'll speak for, things sort of in my purview, but I would say a lot of this, one of the first places, we're looking, quite frankly, is things like search. Kind of because of what I was mentioning before, being able to tie, the sales data with the content nuances at every retailer, with the transactional nuances of search changing, by the minute. That's probably the first place we're going to look to leverage some of that automation.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's the most complexity, I guess I would say.
Very good. Are there any more questions? That is the only one that I see. For anyone that's tuned in live.
I think there's one other one, Mark, here that says, who are some good partners you've worked with, and what makes them a good partner?
Well, I don't know what kind of partners the question is referring to.
No pressure, Michelle.
I was going to say, but for instance, Mark and the KPM team. So honestly, it's true, Mark and the KPM team, but many of our retail partners truly have been really wonderful in this space, because I think everyone's trying to learn together. So we've done some great things with KPM. I'm sorry, the Walmarts of the world, a lot of the big ones. I don't want to start naming them, but I actually was thinking of I was thinking partners from another perspective. Our agency partners have been great, whether that be our shopper agency, we use Mars, our media agency, we use Spark, part of Publicis. And so they have been great at helping us tackle the gray, so to speak.
Yeah, very good. Dave, do you see any other additional questions? I'm not seeing.
No, that's all in the Q&A in the chat that I can see too.
All right. Are there any other questions that that folks that are tuned in want to add to? Michelle, I agree with what you were just saying. We are so early. I mean, just in our KPM world, we're 4.5 years old at this point, and I get so excited truly about what we don't know. We've learned a lot, but there's so much more for us to learn, and that really excites me a lot. There's so much.
I'm only 8 months old. I'm only 8 months old in the space, but there is so much to learn, and truly, the retail partners like yourselves have been nothing but really collaborative in terms of learning together, because for us, we're a big player, right? We're one of the biggest center store players in the grocery trip, so to speak. So we have to figure this out together so that we could keep delighting consumers regardless of where they are in this maze of shopping sprints.
No question, and thank you for that.
Of course.
If we don't have any additional questions.
Well, wait, hold on. I think one more came through. How are you measuring Ecom sales today, and who does this the best?
Well, this is one of those areas where I say you might have to live with a little imperfection if you're used to perfection. But I would say we leverage IRI. They're our master contract, and we do leverage them to measure our e-commerce sales. But then we also get supplemental data from our customers themselves, like Kroger. So we kind of leverage both and bring it all together in a data lake, we call it, so that we can make sure we have a holistic view. And then we also supplement that with things like panel data to get at some of those household differences that we're seeing between, say, a brick and mortar shopper and an e-commerce shopper.
Very good.
I'll ask a question as it relates to just what's your thoughts on, the collection of, true CRM? I mean, CPG has always kind of been behind in that area. Typically, we don't have much CRM, and understanding where we're headed and from a cookie-less future perspective. Just kind of curious on, have you guys thought about how to start getting more and more first-party data?
I'm going to leverage Mark for that one. Well, I mean, we're testing, we're piloting some things, whether it's, through a more direct way for us. Again, we're not a direct-to-consumer organization, but we are piloting some ways to get that data more directly. However, we leverage partners like KPM for that first-party data. So, Mark, I don't know if you.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. So, Dave, that is a great question, and actually, I've hosted a couple brand innovator sessions with other brand partners. And that was a big part of the conversation. There are a lot of CPGs trying to figure it out, how to gather their own first party data, and it's super challenging from a CPG perspective. It really is. What we have done on some occasions is we have married up first party audiences from CPGs with Kroger's audiences to activate via KPM. So we can see 96% of sales. So we can find the households that are absolutely relevant to the brands. But then what we've been able to do is complement those households with CPG first party data to also activate against those households. And then because we do have the closed loop measurement, we're able to see what's happening across multiple audiences, how they're performing against the specific objective for the campaign. So that is what we've done today, but it is super challenging for CPGs to build their own first party.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Mark. I think that's always been such a great leverage point that Kroger's had, or 8451 to Kroger Precision Marketing, right? That's such a huge advantage. And I think it's so incredible how you guys can interact with marketers to really truly hone in on those audiences and then give them a better consumer experience. So I think that's awesome. By the way, both of you, thank you so much. I think when I was listening to you talk about, Michelle, you were talking about data transparency, and it made me think a little bit about how important data transparency, data ownership, right? Data agility, being able to ensure that you have that. And that's kind of ties into, and it's kind of key as you start to think about automating some of these processes. It kind of all kind of fits together, and having partners like Kroger and the like is really a huge win for everybody. So thank you both. I mean, this has been incredible. There's no more questions in the chat. So thanks for joining. And I would say, I guess that's the end of the day.